Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm using a tripod today for some reason, so that's new for me. Well, I use them, but not very often. Usually like to go freehand and get amongst it. This video is about trying to make the best of what we have received, well, what I've received anyway, from the Batch 2 Spider-Man by Hot Toys, the Tobey Maguire figure from the No Way Home movie. Now, if you saw my review on the Batch 1, then you know the situation with that. It was sent back to Hot Toys to be replaced with a Batch 2, and then I did the review on the Batch 2 figure here in front of me, and I was not happy because there was a horrible bump at the front of the head where the seam ends. And this video is about how I managed to flatten that bump out and lessen the hideousness of the whole situation. It's still there. You can see the seam. There's nothing we can do about that, but I have managed to flatten it. So drop a like on this video because it will help more people find it. This is definitely going to hopefully help a few people out there who receive their Batch 2 Spidey. Some of you might get lucky and get a nice flat flush mask to the top of the head there. Others unfortunately are probably going to get one like I did, with the material forming just a nasty circular kind of bump which created quite an obvious shadow. And yeah, I hope this video helps. I'm going to cut to the footage now of me demonstrating how I fixed it. I know it's very obvious to a lot of people how you would go about this, and the video may not be necessary for those people obviously, but for newer collectors who weren't sure how to go about trying to make this look better, hopefully this clip will help you. So just a little demonstration on what I did. Obviously there's a seam there, you can't get away from that, but I did manage to flatten it. You know, when I got this Batch 2 Spidey, when I reviewed it on the channel, as you can see in that review, I had like this raised little circular section, like a little tiny volcano, or a zit if you will, at the front of the seam, right at the top of his forehead. And that little hole, you know, formed a shadow in the center, and it made it look even more obvious. You can still see on camera as I'm setting this up to shoot it, I'm thinking you can still see what looks to be a hole here. There isn't. I mean, I'm looking at it really close up. There's no hole there. It's just the line of the stitching, the seam, that creates that under certain lighting. When he's on the shelf now that I've flattened this, it does look a lot better. So I have been a lot happier with him since I've done this. What I did was simply, I hate describing it like this because it's disgusting, but like the same kind of thing. Like if you were popping a zit, it's disgusting, I know. But I did that to raise the bump, to separate it from the sculpt that it was kind of resting on underneath quite tightly. So I just kind of pressed the two sides together around the circle that had formed, and then I would just give it a little pinch with my finger. Once I did raise it, I just pinched it just to separate it a little bit more from the sculpt underneath. It didn't lift up very high, folks. It wasn't like I was like pulling the mask off or anything. It won't do that. It's very tight to the sculpt, but I did manage to just pinch it enough to raise the bump, and then I started to just work the mask on either side around the bump, the seam in the middle. I would pull apart on either side and then press it back down, then pull backwards on either side, press it down, pull apart again, very gently though, and then press it down until it was completely flat. Now there's no more raised bump forming the hole at the front. You can still see the seam, but it's not anywhere near as hideous looking as it was when I first received this. So it really will help those out there who do have a Spidey. It's bound to happen, you know. I can't be the only one that's going to get a Batch 2 Spidey with that weird hole at the front of their head. So for those of you out there, you know, you have my sympathies, but there is a way to make it a lot more visually appealing. So as I've demonstrated there, just kind of lift it up and separate it from the mask a little bit, not completely separate, but just so you know you've actually managed to move it a little bit, and then start to just work it back down again, making sure it's nice and flat, and you end up with a nice flush mask to the head with no bumps, no holes, but obvious seam which we can do nothing about at the moment. But that's how I did it. Alright, so that was the footage of the demonstration. And by the way, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with those custom white eye lenses, I just absolutely love this piece. I already did, but now it is just on another level. Check out the video I did just recently on installing those custom eyepieces. Highly recommend those. I'm going to have to revisit this figure now and do a nice little pose session with him. And I probably will do the same for Tobey here as well, now that I'm happier with how he looks. I mean, like I said, on the shelf You can still see the seam at the top of the head, but it's nowhere near as ugly as it was before. And all things considered, I am pretty happy with him now. Also just recently changed the mouth plate on my Dark Knight Rises Batman to the slightly open mouth, because let's face it, especially in the Dark Knight Rises, anytime Christian Bale is wearing the Batsuit, he usually has his mouth open a little bit. I don't know, it seemed like he had more trouble breathing in this suit than he did in the Batman Begins one. There's a lot more scenes in Batman Begins where his mouth was just closed, but in the Dark Knight Rises especially, his mouth was always slightly open. So I think it looks a lot better with that mouth plate now. Looking forward to Bane. Let's get a little rotating base footage. You can see the seam as it's turning around. I mean, there's no getting around it. There's a seam there, but trust me, it's a lot better than it was. Hot Toys just announced the Superior suit from the Spider-Man 2 video game. That looks awesome. I will most likely be getting that one. I wanted to do my thoughts video on the piece, but there's too much going on, guys. Got to get back in the lab, finish off some masks, but yeah, my thoughts on the Superior suit that Hot Toys announced from the Spider-Man 2 video game are pretty damn positive. I'm going to try to get my hands on it, add him to the collection for sure. I'll just say massive thank you to everybody who left comments suggesting different products to use for sticking the custom eye plates in permanently. There's quite a few options to choose from. And thank you to all of you for suggesting the different products to use. So far I'm just still sticking with the blue tack. It's actually white tack that I'm using. And so far they haven't fallen out, it's all good. Massive improvement to the figure though. But yes, thank you folks for suggesting different things to use. Appreciate all the comments, all the help, suggestions. You guys are good folks out there, looking out for your boy. With what's in front of me right now, I'd bump him up to a 7 out of 10. I gave him a 6 when I reviewed this Batch 2 Spidey originally, a couple of days back, but after the little bit of futzing around with the top of the head, smoothing out that seam, I'm a lot happier, and I would bump him up to a 7, which is a good figure. It's not a very good figure, it's not an excellent figure, it's not a masterpiece, but it's a good figure. It's a nice representation of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in your collection, and as you can see, as far as how that looks right now, you know, I think that looks really good. So bumping you up to a 7, Spidey. I really do like the way the suit is clinging to the body. There's no ugliness. I got a little indent on one of the, the top of the ankle sort of area at the front, but I think most people will end up with that. The other one's okay, it's just the left leg. But for the most part, I have a very nice, smooth, realistic looking suit to the body here. And the transition from the interchangeable head and neck to the body, yes, you can see it, but it doesn't bother me. I do like being able to swap it out for the Tobey Maguire head sculpt from time to time. We'll see what they come up with in the future. But right now, I'm pretty happy with how he's looking. What do you think? Alright, so I hope this video has helped someone out there who ended up in a similar situation to me with a raised kind of bump section at the end of the seam on the top of the head. This was how I fixed it. It's not an actual fix because the seam is still there. It's just a lot less ugly than it used to be. Still ugly. There's nothing you can do about that. I'm not trying to tell you that I've, waved some magic wand and made this a good figure. But for those of you that do end up with it after parting with serious cash, if you get one like my Batch 2 turned up, then this is a way to make it just look a bit better in display. So I will see you soon on the channel, folks. Let me know how you're doing out there. Drop a comment. Always good to hear from you. Don't forget to like the video for me. Follow me on Instagram. Keep up with what's going on at DeanKnight333. And I will see you soon. Take it easy. Bye bye.